am sure sports. You know me there, I'm coast to coast representing. I mean, I say this is righteous representing for Omar. You don't know, come get the sports over here from near and far. Boy. Me say I am sure sports, one thing me sure about. When me say sure, that me not doubt. Come get your sports, get it over here. Come subscribe, repost and share. I am sure sports, one thing me sure about. When me say sure, that me not doubt. Come get your sports, get it over here. Come subscribe, repost and share. If me not sure, that me not say it. Know who score, that me not say it. Never know no game play, that me not say it. If me never see no game, me no know who play. For your sports news, better come over here so. For your soccer news, then come over here so. If you don't love sports, still come over here. For the date done, you are gonna love over yourself.
So when it comes on to behavior concerning football, Jamaica is decent. I am sure that if we can get all of these things done, set in place by the end of April, it gives us enough time before the World Cup campaign. Not afraid of no Brazil, no Argentina with these crap of players. We are good enough. Remember to like, subscribe, share. Listen, comment, let me know what your thoughts are.
Knibb Jerk Marinade gives your meats and vegetables authentic Jamaican jerk flavor. The spices are directly from Jamaica. Spices like jerk seasoning, allspice, Scotch bonnet pepper, fresh scallions, thyme, ginger, and garlic. The key ingredients to a great jerk marinade. 0% sugar and low in sodium. You want to try it?
Made up of 18 Jamaican herbs and spices. Add delicious, bold flavor to your next grilling experience. Flavoring sauce, a marinade, basting, condiment, or topping. Knibb Jerk Barbecue Sauce.
Alright, greetings and good evening. Welcome to I Am Sure Sports. I am your host, Management. It is a Sunday, and you know, if you know me for any time, you know that Sundays are very special. Right, it is church where I go to church, and so as much as I can, I avoid doing content on Sunday. But this is such an important conversation is that we're going to have today. Is that I bid myself to do it today. So I want you to be a part of this with me. We're going to make it fun, informative, and hopefully we can get clarity and a better understanding of many of the happenings in schoolboy football, especially in the Dacosta Cup from a person who is very integral in the process. But as usual, we never want to begin and diving into our content without pausing and giving thanks for life. We continue to encourage you to look to the hills from whence cometh your help. Your help comes from the Lord, the one who made the heavens and the earth. He is the good shepherd, and he will ever lead you in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. And even though you may walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you need not fear no evil, for the Most High God is with you. Have confidence in that. You are not alone in spite of the difficulty. And know that God is sovereign. He's above all, and he is before all. We don't like to pause our content to tell you to hit the like button, to subscribe, to share, and all of that, though it is important. So here's what we do up front. Very simple things. Even if you are watching, you can go and like the video. If you've not subscribed, you can subscribe, and you can also share. They are very simple things for you to do. Very, very simple thing. It's not hard. And if you do that, you're supporting the work of the platform. All right. I must let you know, fellow YouTuber Unseen, his team played games today and they won. They dropped 7-1 and they dropped 2-0. And you know, he had a star baller on it. You must ask him about the hat-trick scorer for his team. But again, thanks for coming in. Lulu, Kevin Williams, Fresh God in the building. The humble lion man is here. Paul Watkins, sure improvement. She is the first lady in the building. The beautiful, sure improvement former footballer. Don't know if she has any giftings or callings in it anymore. If it has evaded her. Big deal, Leng. Bless up yourself. the man who does much more searching in terms of finding Jamaican footballers than anyone else I know. Also want to say big thank you to the man from Rossi's High School. He's here, Troy Bulla Malcolm. And listen, people, we are going to give you an update with some videos on what is happening down at Rossi's, right? It is the first time in a long while I see somebody say, here, we have a project, they set a start date, and they started on the date, and things are going according to plans. I'm telling you, really do we see this in Jamaica. So big up to Troy, Bulla Malcolm, and the rest of the Rossi's Brosis Foundation. All right, without going any further, Baggio up and running, former officer over there in the States. Big up yourself and bless up. Let me welcome Mr. Linvern Wright, because I know he has school in the morning. We don't want to keep him long, but this discussion will be strong. Mr. Wright, welcome to the show. So privileged to have you on the platform this evening.
Thanks for having me, Omar, and good night to your viewers and listeners.
Yeah, man, wonderful. Had a wonderful day. How was the day?
It was good enough. I actually am into farming, so I was doing some of that today.
Oh, farming. Like, all right. When it's a farming,
I'm a Trelawney man, so you could guess what I'm doing.
Huh?
I'm a Trelawney man, so you can guess what I'm doing.
The thing though is that farming has changed. When I remember people talking about farming back in the days, this man going with his fork and hoe and machete and all of that, and him shed pan to with him food in it and all of that. Now farming has changed. It's greenhouse farming. Everybody doing everything. Everything is just like in this little cube, all covered up. You know, everything. I mean, I don't know. You don't look like a man who goes out with fork and hoe.
Well, I do yam, so we're not into a greenhouse in yam. So it's straight off machete and pork.
Yes, because Trelawney is a yam country.
Yam capital, yes.
The yam capital. So let me, do we export yam?
Yes. So today I actually did some selling for export.
Is this recent, or we have always exported
Well, we've
yam?
always been. I mean, my grandfather was a part of this in the 80s.
Exporting yam?
Yeah.
I didn't know that Jamaica exported yam.
My grandfather in the 80s was champion export farmer for 3 consecutive years, and this was mostly yam.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So it's something that has been on for a long time. So Trelawney has traditionally been about that because of the climate. And definitely. I think North Manchester is a part of it. Some sections of
Which borders on Trelawney?
Right. Clarendon, yes. Some parts of St. Anne.
That's out by Borough Bridge?
Yes.
Up that side?
Right. Cascade, that area.
Cascade, yes. Okay. I didn't know that. So the yam that is exported. see somebody in the States said that so he lives in the States. He said, "How you think me eat yam, man?" I didn't know. I thought like other countries did yam. I didn't know that.
Other countries do too. Africa.
I didn't know that Jamaican yam, like, because I remember people talk about yellow yam, renta yam, the white yam, nigla yam.
You have all kinds of yam. One of these days I can come on and we talk about that, because I was a part of Yam Festival, organizing Yam Festival. That's how much we were. I mean, many of us are a part of that kind of thing. But there are many, many varieties of yam. You'll be very surprised at some of the names.
This is a Manchester man who is also in the state. He says there is a big factory in Christiana, a yam factory.
Yes.
See, I never know that.
Yeah, man, there is.
Do they make any product from yam apart from you cooking it and eating it different ways? Is there any byproduct?
I know some people are into yam flour, so where they pound it and they're trying for that kind of thing. I'm not sure of anything else. There was a member of parliament campaigning once who spoke about canning yam, but I don't know that worked. I think people like your friend online who speaks to getting yam in New York. They like to know that they're getting the thing that they're used to. Yeah, and I know in Canada and the US, Jamaican yam, they actually label it Jamaican yam because it's a premium. Because Jamaicans love it, kind of thing, yes. Oh,
somebody telling RR says, wait a bit, wire fence is where he's from.
All those areas. Wait a bit, wire fence, Lorimer's, Low River, Joe,
Alberton. You learn every day.
Yes, all of those places are Warsaw, Troy, all of those places. Yam, and then North Manchester, Craighead, and those places.
Okay. And he's talking about yam punch.
Yes. Well. The other thing is, at Yam Festival usually do things like yam wine. So I know someone who does that. If you want that, you can order, and I can get that for you, kind of thing.
Okay.
So
See, for
there's a lot to talk about. You couldn't exhaust it tonight, given how
yes. Well, we're gonna have to have a show where we discuss that because some of these things are foreign to me.
yes.
Yeah, Paul Watkins. I normally get yam and banana, but I've never thought that the yam in Florida is actually from Jamaica because there's nothing on the packaging when I get it when you go to the farmers market that says it from Jamaica. So I always thought it probably like from Guatemala, Honduras, some of those places. I
Jamaica is big in
never
that.
knew.
Big in that.
Yeah. All right, but that's good. We'll talk about some other time. We're gonna talk about ISSA and things. So first, I mean, outside of farming, you are the principal of William Knibb and also the chairman of the Dacosta Cup committee. How long have you been the principal at William Knibb, and how would you describe your time so far as principal?
Well, exactly 3 years at William Knibb. I started May 1, 2020. But as you know, most of it uh, has been in COVID. So and I was on leave for a little bit. So more than half the time it was about COVID, and I never had the interface with the students. Fact is that I'm enjoying it. In fact, I have made some calls this evening, for example, for our students, where we're really trying to continue the revival of sports and the just the commitment to ensuring what one principal before me spoke to as Knibb Pride. And I think it has been an exciting thing. There are many things that are not yet where we want it to be. But what really we are doing now is laying a groundwork for ensuring that there are policies in place and there are plans in place, and then there's a funding and the commitment from stakeholders to ensure that we achieve these things. So far, it has been good. It has been good working with the teachers, interacting with students, because I have what I call principals hour a week with every group. I meet 7 to 9 every other week. I meet for an hour. I meet um, fourth to sixth form 1 hour every week. We interact. I hear from them, that kind of thing. That has been really the big thing for me. I have been able to manage right through up to this point, and I think the students love it. And we have been doing well. So it's back to home for me, back to my parish, back to the school. That's my alma mater. As you know, as many of you
Oh,
know, I was at Rossi's, so I was interested in that process, but I follow that. I know what
oh,
from
so you were at Rossi's before you got to William Knibb
right.
as a
Rossi's,
principal?
yes. For
Oh,
7 years I was there. So the
oh,
last time Rossi's won Dacosta Cup, I was principal, 2017.
interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. And then okay. Oh, okay. And then you took leave, and then you went to William Knibb.
I went to William the band, then did a year, then I got leave. Pretty much like that.
Yeah, but you know what is funny though? The sports program, I think during that 7 years, especially track and field, took off at Rossi's
Significantly, yes.
significantly, and they also won the, like I said, during that time they also
We won the girls. We won girls. Western
Western
champs
champs in
for
that time.
2 years, right?
So
And
no,
we're in the top 10 of girls champs. Once
exactly.
some years, but girls champs for a little bit.
Okay, and so now and then and now I realize that one of the top athletes from Rossi's also moved from Rossi's to William Knibb recently. She's a female.
Yes,
I think she moved with the coach because the coach was also at Rossi's and he came over to William Knibb. Oh,
that
how could I
happened.
forget?
I mean, she wanted to. I, I tell you, it's something I don't encourage, but it happens. And sometimes a little difficult when they have that kind of affiliation to the coach. But when we were at Rossi's, we had a very good working relationship. So Coach Miles really, in the end, ended up coming with me, and
Okay.
he has been a really good addition to the sports program at William Knibb. You might realize that William Knibb is also making a mark these days in
Yeah,
track and
William Knibb. All right, so I'm just gonna give him my like. I've always felt like William Knibb is that school that you have high expectations for in sports
yes.
because of all the names, the location, how the field just look when you drive on the highway. You always think like this could be a beautiful stadium. It's very central. You have all of that. You think that they're going to do well. You think that there's going to be a next Usain Bolt, a next Marvin Anderson, and it just never happens. But the
Not,
next year, you keep believing the same
not,
thing.
yes, yes. But what really has happened is consistency. But wherever William Liv has gone, because William Liv has produced 3 Olympians, and not many schools can do that. Maybe even
Marvin
some
and
schools,
Marvin Anderson, Usain Bolt.
and I think Michael Green.
Okay.
Michael Green, I think, has. Remember at one time Michael Green was the quickest over 50 meters
Yes, yes,
or
yes,
60
yes.
meters. Right. So you have that. You have that. I mean, there's that tradition there. What really has happened now is that the winning of trophies is a big thing, and really having the highlight. Our thing is to do it slowly, is to do it consistently, and to do it and to be focused in doing it. We just have to understand where we are now, and not seek to to do too much to really have a program implode on itself because you have started too much. So what we're doing is that we're focusing on some sports. William Rivers always had a strong tradition in basketball because I think we were
Right.
the island basketball tournament already. So there's also that many people don't know about the school. But for us, to be honest with you, where we are, and I like Coach Myers' approach to things, what we really want to do, yes, we'd love to win a trophy, right? Because it's really good. I mean, as at Rossi, it's a wonderful setup. It's a wonderful feeling. But what I'm more interested in is the scholarships that students get. And it's one of the things that we push to ensure that sports is about opportunities for students. So it's not just about competition, it's not about winning, and it's not about people coming in and feeling that sports is about indiscipline. And we have had challenges. I think many schools have challenged with that because we have to teach the young people to manage stardom. You know how big sports is in Jamaica, track and field, football. It is something that if you don't really have the kind of support system around them, the psychological support system, the systems that help them to understand their place in the institution as a student first and a sports star after, although there is going to be the eclipsing of their being students by the kind of highlight that sports gets. So the support system has got to be about that because there are too many students who are stars who end up losing themselves and losing the dream in sports because they don't understand that discipline is something that you still take with you into sports and not so much use the sports to destroy yourself.
Yeah. I see the man from Rossi's here, Troy Malcolm, saying William they produce some good footballers as well.
Yes.
Cosman William, Jasper Williams, Hero, Charlie De Sousa,
Yes. The
and
number.
Sir Denton,
Garnet
Denton
Denton.
himself. And
Garnet
Keegan,
Dare, who went to Rossi's, also was at William Liv at one time.
who?
Garnet Dare.
Okay, okay,
He was at
okay,
school with me at William Liv, right?
okay. And there's also Keegan who I think left and went to, is it Camperdown?
Camperdown, yes.
Yes, yes, yes. Because he was a William Knibb player as
So
well.
like Garnet Denton, Gerald Scott, Casman Williams, Sean D'Souza, those are the names that many people can. Many people from Rossi's would know them because they were
And I recently interviewed someone who went to William Knibb as well, called Darlan Clark.
Yes.
Yeah, he used to coach Usain Bolt. He was a track and field coach at William Knibb.
Right.
When Bolt was just coming through.
Yes.
I think it's Darlan Clark is his name. So I like what you said though, because that's one of the things we want to discuss. Because that may be the philosophy of William Knibb, but the truth is there is a portion of our schools who are interested in the trophies and in the titles and in the cups and in those things. And sometimes that is viewed, at least by the public, at the expense of what you just described as the child's welfare. So they end up winning Manning and Dacosta Cup or champs stuff, and then the kind of commitment is made towards the sport is not made towards them educationally, and it's probably one in every 100 of the footballers in the Dacosta Cup that will go on to be professional footballers or even less.
Right.
So while William Knibb is at there are schools who don't necessarily operate that kind of a way, which is probably something that we ought to get just
And
right
let me
across
say
the
something
spectrum of
because
schools. Yeah.
let me say something, Marlon, because I'm very honest in my discussion. Sometimes your students come to school because one of the things that happens now that is unfortunate, and I think that as principals just have to find a way around it. There are students who come and they will play football for the first term and you don't see them again, right? What I know will happen at my school is that anybody who does that, I know if you have a chance to come back next year, you won't. The fact is that because that sets up precedence, and I think because that precedence had been set in
Yeah.
previous years, and there are many people who do that kind of thing. I think it's something that we shouldn't want and we mustn't encourage. And I've had some of that at Rossi's. I've had it since coming at William Knibb. But the fact is, because the fact is that you can't know when students do that kind of thing. So I'm just making the point that there
Yeah.
is some of that, something that you can control. But I just believe that if it is that you, as a principal, are in charge of your program, then I think you minimize many of those things. I think the institutions that have those kinds of issues is where external folks pump significant sums into the system. Because for some people, it's really about ego. It's about my school just showing that they are better than the school up the road or across the road or rivals in the 50s. There is that kind of thing. And I think that what we have to do at ISSA and have been trying to do at ISSA is to ensure that this kind of external influence does support in ways that will assist the image. Difficult fight, but I think that we have been able to keep it together as much as we can, given the kind of forces that are out there supporting. Because sports enthusiasm is really one that's difficult to contain. You see it in the Premier League football, you see it all over the world where the enthusiasts are the ones who carry the sports, but they're also the ones who can carry it down if you don't know what you're doing. So it's about having systems of management that assist with regulating that kind of approach to it.
Yeah. I see here one of the commenters. He's a part student of Clarendon College. Never played the sport. I think he's an accountant now. He goes by the name CC,
Yeah.
Sports Lab. He says, "So, Mr. Wright, why stop a child from coming to school because he just wants to play football? Is not that it is that not better than him being on the street wreaking havoc?" But I think in the answer you suggested that the child had stopped coming to school, but go ahead and whispered.
Let me just make a point. You see, and respectfully, it's kind of reductive to think of education like that. In my mind, if we are talking about the holistic education of the individual, I do not think we should encourage people coming to do one thing.
I
We
agree.
can't encourage people coming to do English alone. We can't encourage people coming to do math alone. We can't encourage people coming to do football alone. Because if you have that, then what happens in many schools, and I just share this with you as a principal, when a student decides that I'm going to be doing this one thing and doing nothing else, what happens in terms of discipline and how the student spends his or her time? What works best in my mind is the student who understands that it is an integrated program
Yes.
that is going to make him the best human being, because that's what it's about. And the great people in sports will tell you, the Usain Bolts, the Lionel Messis, the Ronaldos will tell you, it is those other support systems that they had and those other things that they did that they were able to use now as some kind of a prop to help them to become better at what it is they do. So the discipline they got from doing things that they weren't at school for, but they were helpful for them in the long run, are the things that assisted them. So I believe that a school should really encourage that kind of thing in its policy. And I make no apologies to say that if school is about academics plus sports and around it education, a child should not be able to choose to come to do sports, because we're not running a sport.
And an academy.
Right. We're not doing that.
So then because the other note as you speak about that, because one of the things that many people struggle with is the constant utterances from ISSA that football and sports in school is recreational. All right. My challenge with that is, why is it then so competitive if it is for recreational purposes and our schools investing too much money in it, again, like you just said, at the expense of developing that child in a holistic way, for the future, because very few, I mean, we only have one Usain Bolt. You understand me? There is only one Ricardo Gardner who left from Jamaica and did it. So the numbers are very small in terms of those who go on. So if it is for recreational purposes, why then isn't the school re rerouting the monies from out of the sporting programs into the educational aspect of these kids' life?
Well, the fact is that what you really want sports to do is to provide an opportunity for students. You watch many schools in altogether sing. You watch many schools in festival. You watch many schools doing these kinds of things. Different stakeholders within different schools will pump their money into different things. Sometimes the principal there's an emphasis on different things. The culture of a school has different emphasis on different things. I might, as a principal, believe in a holistic approach to it. There are some persons who figure that sports is something that drives. And I'll give you an example. For example, when I went to Rossies, I recognized that there is a strong football culture in Rossies, where if you want to win the community, you need to have a focus on football. And I was able to have the focus on football, but also have the community help me talk to young men who were not coming to school as they were supposed to come, because I said, look here, I give you this emphasis on football because I know you love it, but I want you now to help me to help them to love school and do their work. And there were people who would say to me, if they are not doing their work, Mr. Wright, we are going to support you in their coming out, whether I was a star or not. I remember there were boys who were doing things, and it was members of the community who helped me to have them understand that it doesn't work like that. It's school first. But it's kind of going back to the previous point to me. But the point you asked about it with the sports is for competition, for
Recreational, which is what
recreational.
Mr. Wellington normally says, it's a
It is
recreational
it
purpose.
is about that, and it's about providing opportunities for participation in sports. Essentially, that's what ISSA's mission statement says. That ISSA has been adept at organizing and bringing in sponsorships and the different demands in terms of the competing demands for what things ought to become, because sponsors have a demand, past students have a demand, the school itself, because sports sometimes is how schools get recognized. You look at what, for example, William Knibb has had through a Usain Bolt, and Edwin Allen has had through track and field. The knowledge of these schools are about that, and there is a need, especially in times like these, for you to project that image that people understand. Sometimes it helps you to get sponsorship for other things, and I'm sure many schools do that sort of thing. So the way sports is now, I don't think you can you will have something as an intention, but how it evolves is something that you just have to try to manage to ensure that your intention remains. You remain as an organization true to your intention. You can manage its evolution in such a way that it does not totally wipe out what your intentions are. But it is still primarily about opportunities for participation in sports for all children. And the final point I'd like to make in relation to that is that your point and many people's understanding that it is only a small percentage of our students who go on to national prominence and international participation does say that you have to just give the opportunity for that. And then those that shine, you work with that. And that's a good thing. A part of the problem too, I think, is that we do not have any organization for young people's sports outside of the high school system. And I think that more speaks to the kind of lack in sports infrastructure, which really should be about government and how they put that. One of the things that I've always said is that I think for what sports has done for Jamaica, what music has done for Jamaica, I think the government should sponsor 2 coaches of the school's choice for them to have. So whether you want to have it football or track and field, but you pay for those so that you can maybe help to equalize or try to reach a point where at least the opportunities are there for all students to participate in sport, given the fact that we are a powerhouse in sports as a country. And it has come from very little assistance from government. If you understand me. So for me, it's a little broader than that. It's understandable that people are saying, boy, this has so much, but the entertainment value it has is one of the reasons you'd ask a question like that. Because the truth is that there's no football competition in Jamaica that is as popular as football. And because it has that popularity and that passion involved in it, you're going to have questions like that. And we understand, no offense, to us, I think.
Yeah, I think, all right, let me just segue to this one because the things are just coming through. So many questions are coming up, but this one is very key because I mean, I let me say it this way: the high school that I went to, at that point, you could get grade twos and still don't because three was not a pass. So you could get grade twos and still not go to sixth form, right? In that time when I did, all right. Now kids can go to sixth form with 3 and 4 subjects and some with even CXC, whatever that is now. I'm all cool with that. Now, what I think that has changed is that the entrance into high school, that process has changed. It used to be what you call common entrance, where you did basically multiple choice questions, and depending on your mark, you go to certain high school, you had a couple of chances. Now, you are placed in schools based on the grade that you get. So, the difficulty I've had is there are some kids who are placed in school below the pass mark to participate in sports, but they are placed in the high school. But for some reason, as the years progress, they are not allowed to participate in certain sporting discipline if they don't maintain a certain average. I think it's 45 pass mark over 4 subjects, and that include homework and assignments. I think it also include, it's not just like exam grades,
Right.
but it is your classwork, your homework, and exam grade that comes up with the average. If you have 45 in 4 subject areas, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, then you can participate. If you fall below that,
Essentially are correct, yes.
yes. All right. The one challenge that many people have. Listen, I'm fine. I think the pass mark is too. That's me personally. My opinion is that 45 is wrong. That the standard, it we set a standard of failure, really, in my opinion, to reward somebody at 45, but the man at 44 failed by 1 point. But the man at 45 gets through, but the man at 44 can't. And both are failing. It's just a point difference. All right. But many people believe that if they are admitted in the schooling system failing, then they should not be prevented from doing their talent, which they would be successful at. How do you address that?
The history is important for people to understand many of these things. I think that, and there's that school of thought that I wouldn't try to fight, that once a child is in school, they ought not to do. But there are many things that you do in good faith that are exploited by some. And what we used to have were people who went to school, did nothing at all, but just came to play football, or came to just be in track and field, or came to just do cricket. And the basis on which they came to school, right? Many of them really just never fulfilled that, because for them, it's sports that was the number one thing. What ISSA has done, which I think is brilliant, is to use what they love, sports, as a platform for them to do work in other things that are important for them. And we make no apologies for that, because what we feel is that if it is that this is something that you love, there's what we call pre-mark principle when I used to do in early psychology, pre-mark principle, where what you have as a desirable behavior, you actually have them do that for what is something that they have a passion for. So they have the passion for sports. If you really care about
use that to drive them educationally, yeah.
Right. So it is something that you use to get them. You do that with your children. They don't like washing plates, but you know they want a phone. You say you wash the plates for 2 weeks, and you get a phone. You get them to wash plates, and the place needs to be clean anyway. So it's the same kind of thing that ISSA has done. And I mean, as principals, we have no problems with it because we have seen the issues in schools. And you have been to school, and many of these persons, you would have been to school, and you would see how persons who come to school just to participate in sports and not do anything else, the disciplinary problems many of them can cause, the challenge to teaching they can cause. And so we have to think about the school as a whole. So although we are a governing body for sports in high school, we cannot ignore the fact that if we don't regulate some things, then the purpose of high schooling is something that will be lost because the focus on sports is something that we just say because that's it.
Yeah. So then, because this person is saying that 45% is not a failing grade.
No, it's a standard below which you shouldn't go, because there are people who are and some people say it's not a standard, but it is. It might be a low standard for some. But the other thing that I think we must recognize is that for those who say, okay, if they come and once they are accepted in school, when you're accepted in school, your school must have a standard too. You must have a standard below which you don't want the students to go, because this is what will help them to be competitive in the world out there. If it is that we say sports is something, I mean, anybody who plays sports can, by virtue of an injury, be written off for the rest of his or her life. I think a school would be abrogating its responsibilities, not to say to a child, you need to have something to fall back on.
Fall back on,
It is that what you come in as a talent with is something that doesn't work for you. So exposing it to different things and different opportunities, or different things that will actually give you opportunities if one thing fails you. I think it's a wise thing.
Like I said, on that I agree. But then I look at a recent report in our newspapers where it said that 70%, a particular high school, they said 70% of their grade 7 batch of students were reading below grade 4 level. All right. No, that's just, whoa.
That's just appalling. It's appalling. It is something that we all need to be concerned with. But let me just say something to you.
So my question though, Mr. Wright, is if that child gets into the high school system at that level, it cannot be their fault to not be allowed to participate in a sporting discipline, because they shouldn't be there. My thing is that I think we have lost Mr. Wright for a little, so let's hope he reconnects. Right, I think you got disconnected. Hope you're watching that dying on me right now. You're back. Are you hearing me, Mr. Wright? Right, let's see if we can fix this on his side. Let's see if we can get him. Let's see if we can get him. Get Mr. Wright back on. Hope he will sign back in. So let's do that. Mr. Blake, can you hear me now? Listen, welcome to all of you. Listen to this very fruitful conversation. We're going to get into a lot more stuff. We're going to talk about transfers, right? So please make sure you're hitting the like button. Yeah, and join. So that we get back. Yeah, but Mr. Wright. Yeah. No man. No. Yeah, man. No man. 45 in Jamaica is field, man. Yeah. Maybe in your college system it isn't, but in Jamaica, it is. Because we use a different system. I think we have Mr. Wright. Right. So right.
I apologize.
Yeah,
I had my computer plugged out and it just went on. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. So, so my point is, if this 70% that is in the high school now, the fact that they got into the door at grade 7 they should not be prevented from playing. Because my point is, they should not have been in there at that level. And if they are in there, then you cannot penalize them because something went wrong somewhere else.
Yeah, but you could say don't penalize them and certify them to go out and work if they're not qualified because they came in without, right? You could take it to that logical end, and it's not to say that school that this is something that is, but there are many other things that are not right that we need to be paying attention to. I don't know if you want to go into some of that this evening, but one of the things, for example, we have to look at are the resources that we give to. One of the things that we have been asking for as principals, for example, is that if you look at Jamaica now, what determines literacy is early stimulation and diagnosis of psychological issues that students will have. Our capacity for diagnosing psychological and social delinquency is something that has not been strong within our education system. Many teachers don't have that expertise. Teachers have general expertise, and the support systems of those things that would help many students to deal with some of those things are not there. So those things would stop them. What we don't have in our system is enough spaces and enough facilities to help many of those students. Because many of us are privileged, and it's not many of us. Some of us, very few of us, are privileged and would have been to schools where this is happening. We are not cognizant of what is happening in many other schools. So, for example, there are high schools in Jamaica who have maybe 90% of these students, but their funding in terms of support from students, from anybody else, is so low. And they are the ones who would need more resources to actually develop and build literacy, develop and build everything else. And because people are saying there should be the pride. But let me tell you something. Whatever the standard is in your school is what you work with for your 45. So a student who, for example, is struggling with literacy, you test a student at the level that he or she is at. So a student at Manning's, and people might have a problem with it, but a student at Manning's might not be tested the same way as a student in another school in the parish. Because
that is true.
Student in Manning's comes with. So a 45 in Manning's in the particular type of test you're giving the students that according to his ability is different to the student in another school who might be struggling with literacy, but you're teaching them and they have reached a particular stage in the 45. So once they are showing progression.
Okay, I see what you mean. Right.
Then you will
see what you mean.
If they come with different abilities, then the test that you give them ought to be pitted to the ability that they come with.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
So if he comes and he's not reading well, for example, let's say you give a test in reading and he was reading at, say, grade 2 level, and this time around he's reading at grade 3 level. I would deprive him of playing football because he's showing some progress. While a student might have been at Manning's who came in with 90s and is getting 35.
So the truth is, the 45% rule is very relative.
It's relative to
context
the school that you're in, right?
To the context, the context you're in.
Right, because ISSA doesn't have a standardized test that it says all of you. But what you must see as a student is work within the parameters or the standards that your school has set and the abilities that you went in with to get the kind of grade that ISSA should get at a minimum in your school.
I don't think anyone should complain about that rule because if like I said, if 3 years down the road, say the school that was mentioned in the newspaper, they are going to test them. The test, like exactly what you just said, the test that they will do would be different. Let's use a school in Kingston than what the kids at third form at Immaculate would do. It's the same batch of grade 7, but the context is different. So you can't use the same testing.
Abilities, because you have to you both teach according to abilities and test according to abilities, and you evaluate according to abilities. So it's, as I said, to whom much is given, much is expected. But as I said, when you're in school and you're showing progress, it is something that shouldn't deprive you of what it is you ought to have. If you're in school and you came with a particular kind of ability and you're not showing progress, to me, you must deal with the consequences of that. That's just it
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah. Right. All right. So, Try Malcolm says, Mannings and Mr. Wright, while we stress the importance of education, and rightfully so, we must also encourage students who are not academic inclined to venture into vocational disciplines. But the
And
school a lot of
and
the schools are
Troy,
providing.
trust me, vocational disciplines. I don't know of a high school now that's not big on that. Every single high school, I had a discussion with the principal of Immaculate just last week, and she's introducing electrical installation. She's introducing everything in every school because that's something now that's moved in high schools. And a part of this 45%. It's so 4 subjects. So if it's 4 practical subjects, you're good. Nobody says math, English, and whatever, and that sort of thing. Across all schools in Jamaica, whether it's a practical subject, if you're strong, so you do 8 subjects maybe, you do 5. Some people do 14. I don't know how many, but if you just have to get 45 in 4 of those to do what you have to do.
Which is could be physical education.
Any
It's
subject at all, any subject, where your strengths are, you should be able to be at least strong in 4 subjects at the level at which a school is, in my mind.
Yeah, rightfully so. I totally agree with that. All right. I mean, there's so many things to discuss, but one of the other big things in terms of ISSA sports that people often and how the rule works, how it applies, is I think rules are good. The issue, just as an individual, I have with rules is that sometimes the rules are meant to affect the people who are abusing the rules. But when the new rules are made, oftentimes it is the people who are suffering end up suffering more, and the people who it was meant to stop find other ways to get around it. All right, let me explain what I mean. So the transfer policy, I think the principle behind it is, listen, I think it is there is an unfairness that a school is building a program and some other school come in, promise the kids stuff, move them, they all go and play for the school down the road, come back and play the school that they just left from, 5 of them, they go down the road, form a team with the next school, come back and play their school and give them 10 love and goes on and win. And there's no benefit to the school that they left from. So in principle, I think the transfer thing needs to be fixed. However, I think with all the transfer policies that have been implemented, the schools that normally do transfers have continued to do it in different ways. And then, I don't want to say smaller schools, but the schools that it was meant to protect are being hurt more by it because some schools knows how to work the policy best or better. Would you agree then that when the rules are being implemented, it need to give greater consideration to the schools that are really being affected and make it more flexible so there can be more parity?
Maybe I'm not so clear on what flexibility is, because if you have a rule and you have some high school, the rule has to be a rule that applies to everyone. Fact is that I can tell you that in many instances, many of the persons who are feeling that they are bitten are the very schools that have been breaching over the years. And without calling any names, you check out those persons who will have an issue with the transfer rule. Very few schools are interested in taking students from overseas to play for them, right? Very few schools have the capacity for transfers to happen. When you check out the way transfers go, it's maybe about out of 170 odd schools in ISSA, or 180 schools or 170 odd schools, that could be in ISSA. Maybe about 20 can do this kind of thing. And
Okay.
it is among those people that you usually have this kind of discussion because it affects them. Because for many schools, sports is about their ego, it's about a history, it's about bragging rights. And many of them know that if they are to develop the talents themselves, rather than going to poach, and let's just look at some things. We just spoke about, and it's a wonderful discussion we're having, and we just spoke about, for example, academics. many of the schools that will poach a student from another school will, for purposes of academics, not take a student because they don't want their academic program to be diluted. But they will go into a school and take someone of top talent because they want to win at champs or they want to win wherever, that kind of thing. Unfair. They will recruit from overseas to do the same kind of thing. Unfair.
Yeah.
Right? We are saying the other thing that we find grossly unfair, you made the point about that, is that you have schools that have developed their talent. I mean, I wanted to look at a school like McGrath, for example. Wonderful work McGrath has done. If you look at a school like
Was it McGrath in champs? One of them finished in the top 10. Is it McGrath this year?
I'm not sure, but I'm not just
I,
talking champs.
I
I'm
think
talking football now since I am.
right,
But
right. But okay,
I'm just making that point that they have done well in football. When I was at Rossi's, I recall them beating Rossi's and they went on the other year and it did. So I think they went straight to semifinals, right?
right. Yeah,
Those
McGrath.
are the
Yes.
kinds of things that you want. What you have some schools doing is they look at McGrath and they will look at them and they will say, okay, that's a wonderful team. Let us do whatever. I went to a game where when Dintil was playing McGrath, it was like a derby game. That is what you want the sports to become, where so-called minnows become competitive and people don't poach their players because they feel that they're a big school. They don't want that. And so it's one of the things that we try to work against. It's a work in progress, and people have their resources and people study the rules and try to get around them as much
I'm
as possible.
telling you.
We are not afraid when we realize that you study the rules, to study how you're studying the rules and plug the loopholes where we can, and we continue to try to plug the loopholes until they're all clogged for you. Because what must happen is that we have to try our best to ensure that this sort of thing doesn't happen as much as is possible from none of us.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I think that is fair that ISSA is doing that. But again, like there are schools saying that, listen, but they benefited last year, they benefited the year before, we have not benefited. So some schools were able to bring in people from overseas, right? I mean, Mark, the rules allowed it. They didn't do anything wrong. They did that. Like I said, some schools, because of the support, the support system that they have, they can they find a way of getting this player in at 15. They get them from other private places or academies so that they can come in and play right away. Other schools don't do that. So what you find is, like I said, the minnows don't get to play against the giants. It is, and for me, I think the most hurtful part is, and this is hypothetically speaking, William Knibb had a very good team last year. Imagine if who is in your zone, Cedric Titus
Right.
comes in, takes 6 of your players, the Kevin Clark, the Mark Simmons, and whomever they are, and they bring them to play at Cedric Titus. Hypothetically speaking, Cedric Titus has to come and play William Knibb in the same zone.
Right.
Like you should not be able to even play in your same conference, in your same county.
Well, you see, the truth is that because of the stakes in school sports have become so high because of the gaze, the national gaze and international gaze, and past students overseas and past students in Jamaica feeling that this is something that we ought to have. And there is that. There's going to be that. And I'll make one point to you. You see that rule that we had, that quota rule, it is because that quota rule is choking the programs of many schools who want to poach other schools. Why you say the overseas thing coming in? And so we have brought another rule to plug that, to say, okay, your overseas people are going to be a part of your quota now. So if you want to take 10 people from overseas, they're going to be a part of your quota. So you must know how many you want to take and how many are going to be there. Essentially, that is how we're doing it, because what we recognize, we sit down, we study this, we try to look at how it works. There might be other people who are greater at it than us, but I know what we're doing. We are working with the best of intentions to ensure that all of the schools feel like they are given the chance and we're assisting them. Principals run ISSA, and principals will come and say, executive, or they'll say to us, members, we have these issues. And once they talk to us that we have these issues, we have an obligation and I think a moral one too, to say to look at the rules and see how best we can work to ensure that members feel satisfied with it. That is what really matters. I know you have the spectators and that sort of thing. What we want spectators to do and supporters is to enjoy the games, right? The rules are really made by the principals, and we're really trying to make them to ensure that there is fairness in it. Trust us to do our best with that. Sometimes in people's minds there will be blunders, and people have, and as I said, the discussions are passionate, because people have a stake in it because of the egos, right? and that is what happens. I always tell people that it's the male sports that you find most of these things in, because men have this high stake in competitiveness so much. But nothing wrong with that, we understand that kind of thing. The important thing is that you have a body that is willing to look at issues of fairness and try as best as possible to deal with it. It might not be to some person's suit, but what we seek to do is to listen to principals and ensure that their schools are protected as much as we can.
Yeah. As a try, Malcolm, and maybe I can take this one if you want, you can add to it. It says, guys, I don't know if this is specific to Mr. Wright and I, or it's to the persons in the comments section. It says, guys, stop treating sport as an extracurricular activity. Football and track and field is now a profession. Athletes are getting paid well to play the sport on a global scale. While I agree with that, the place for developing professional footballers cannot be in our high school educational system. I
Well,
think it may, and I'm saying that some will come through, but I don't believe the design of school from its original intent was to facilitate the development of athletes into professionals. You will have some. To me,
yeah,
school serves as an identification process.
right.
So by 16, you identify a talent. The parents and the track and field administrators, the footballing administrators, at 16, you see the talent. The school provides the extracurricular activity. But like you said, the other components of society are to facilitate the further development of the sporting side of that person. This, I don't think it is fair to put the onus on the school to lead the process. It will
And
happen
and,
for
and,
some.
and and that's the point. I think that, and I'll say this because some people don't like this, but look here. What has not happened? We have a Ministry of Sports in Jamaica. That to me has always ridden on the back of successes that have come as a result of school sports. They need to build academies. They need to have look at what has happened, what the disgrace that has happened to, for example, in Western Jamaica here, the track in at in,
Catherine Hall.
right? You look at what has happened to that. If you check, and this may be something we need to discuss, if you check many of our parishes, they don't have two quality football fields, right? Or just sports grounds. They don't have that. You go to Trinidad and there are stadia there that are actually about development and making people feel that there is value in sports in that country. What we have are Jamaicans who, it is the love of it and the passion for it that keeps many of us going. But many schools, for example, just don't have a good field. So you develop the school infrastructure, but you don't develop sports. You have something like what you call Jamaica Moves. What have we done in terms of infrastructure to help that? It's all about PR. And I'm not making a political statement. I'm just looking at how we do things in Jamaica. And Troy, I understand your point, Troy. But to me, the development of sports, to me, a student, for example, who has a talent, no school has that capacity to develop that talent in the way it
That
ought
is
to be
my
developed,
point.
right? So what ought to be happening is that we need to be looking at a junior racers club, for example, right?
Exactly.
Football academies that are
Eh,
like
there
pleasant,
you go. That's
right?
what I'm
Those
saying.
are the kinds of things that we need to be looking at, giving the kind of thing to develop to help. I think, Troy, yourself, if it is that you had that kind of opportunity when you were at Rossi's, maybe it would be a different kettle of fish now, because you would be exposed to things that are maybe even more technically sound than you did with a great Diggy Henry. So the point I'm making is that we have to understand that what really ISSA is suffering from now, is it has become so successful in making school sports well known and building the passion that people are now saying, you better give this kind of latitude
Yes, yes.
for students to fly. But the fact is that schools don't have the capacity to do that. And what we must be calling for now is to say, as a country, we need to find ways now to hone these talents and develop them. You look at what happens to these boys who play schoolboy football, right? After they leave high school. You get a system in where, for example, the clubs sort of hone them and they get them to do whatever, and people really trying to make some profit off them sometimes without even developing them. So many of them have gone overseas and come back because the technical skills that they should have had having going into a full-time academy, many of them don't have.
Don't have it. Exactly.
Many of them don't have.
Which is what I am
I'm
saying.
Right. So
I am.
we're on the
Yes.
same, and
Yeah.
I'm just making a point. So I get the point Troy is making, but I think that if you look at Bolton, for example, when he left William Knibb, he went into a national program that I think at the time the government had decided we were going to have at UWI and UTEC. You
Yeah.
notice those clubs,
Right.
once you got those clubs going, oh, Jamaica just, maybe it's the best we have done in sports in our history since we have had that kind of thing. My God, that is something that has worked. Why aren't we continuing it and developing that kind of thing? Not just for track and field, but in football, in netball, in all of those things, because there's so much talent. That's the kind of thing that I think we ought to be doing.
And absolutely, I mean, you're and I are on the same page. I always say to people, apart from the recreational or the extracurricular activity that sporting disciplines allow in school, high school is for identification, not for development. Talents get identified. Now that it is identified, it must be put in the proper space so it can be properly developed. Right? In the same way, you see someone who has a leaning for medicine, you put them in the science. You see someone who likes reading and arguing, you let them do literature because you think they're going down the pathway of being a lawyer. You see someone who's a gifted footballer, there should be a program that the government implements as a whole, either for track and field, where when these top talents are identified at 16, outside of what they do for their high school, they have that program that is making them into professional. Because, listen, here's the thing, they can still do school,
Right.
but school can't do for them what needs to be done for them
Just
to get
just
to the
just
highest.
just set up a system where you target their development in the way that it would assist their development and give some kind of wings to the country in terms of what it is we want from sports. That's just the point.
Yeah. I see Troy saying that he agrees with both of us. So we need more in Jamaica along with good first class facilities. Um, yeah, so that is it. But let's come back to the transfer thing. So one of the
Yeah.
things that I wanted to ask again, I don't know if you're at liberty to answer it, is I feel like since the pandemic, there's a lot of migration all across Jamaica. And what I mean by that, just for work and job, people have moved. Police officers, for example, they have changed, deployed in different areas. Persons who work in the army as well, because of all these zozos and state of emergencies, they have moved and moved their families. Many new homes have come up all across the place in terms of housing solutions. Trelawney just have one thing down there in Clarkstown by Chemtech. People may have moved out of one space to another. Those kids, sometimes when families move, they mean that they move with their kids. So that kid, say, was at Manning's. He ends up in Trelawney because his mother works at one of the new hotels with his father. He seeks a transfer because traveling to Manning's and all of that, and they want to be with the kid. They get him into William Knibb. All right, so he starts William Knibb at second form. I think there should be provision where those things are considered, because
And
that
I
is
know in the
not.
discussions
Yeah.
there is. And once the school and the principal are able to provide proof that that is the case, because we know policemen get transferred, firemen get transferred, people move. Once you have that, but we must not deny that there are people who poach and take them and do whatever it is they have to do. What we have to do is to make that distinction. And I can also tell you that such cases are far and few between of parents moving and the person being a sports
What I
person.
can tell you, is that
Once there is that,
yeah.
ISSA is willing to look into that and deal with it. No big problems with that.
So that's true. All right. So a kid, but hear me, sir. So a kid get into a school at second form. Say it is for other reasons, whatever it is, but they get there at second form. They stay all the way up to upper six. Do they still count as part of the transfers?
Yes. It's from
Second,
anybody who
third,
comes in
fourth,
as second form.
fifth form,
Anybody who
lower,
comes as second
upper
form.
six.
But if the school that you're coming from isn't participating, then you don't count. You know, that's what happens.
So I leave Mushet and say, listen, I want to go to William Knibb.
Mhm.
My parents come and speak to you and say, please, can you allow them to come to? We always like William Knibb. I used to go to William Knibb. You're saying that I get counted as a transfer student for the rest of my time at William Knibb.
Mhm. If it is that the school is participating in the sports.
I think that's a hard one, because I think there's some genuine like it. The
No,
thing is,
no. If it is that it's a parents that has moved, it's something that ISSA will allow some kind of investigation into. We don't have any problems with that. So the principal can write to say that is the case. There's no big problem with that.
okay,
We are
all
not
right then.
unreasonable in that regard.
All right. Well, I'm glad that there is flexibility within. Well, let me not say there is.
I'm just saying that we know how it goes, because let me tell you something. You say these things, people are ready to write and say all
Yes,
kinds of things.
that's what I'm
People are
very
ready
clear.
to write and say all kinds of things. And that is why those things have to be subject to
Yes.
a panel that is going to scrutinize and going to be serious about whatever. So the rule is there. And let me tell you something. People have always, and many of them will tell you, sometimes people see things happening we don't really, but people have always written to say this is a specific case, this is what is happening. And there are times that I've been on panels that have allowed persons based on the strength of the evidence, to do what it is,
Okay.
what they ought to do. Because we understand the exceptions, for example, the police moving, with the parents moving, all kinds of things. We understand those exceptions. But we are saying the exceptions can become the rule. So we can't have from one school 4 or 5 letters justifying that these 5 children have moved from wherever to play football alone, 5 in 1 year. That's highly unusual. And those are the kinds of things that we have to look at 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and sometimes say no, because we
Yeah.
recognize that there's something a foul happening.
Yeah. Is there any has ISSA ever thought about, there are some parishes that has never won like their Dacosta Cup competition, that they're only very, so you have had winners from Hanover, Westmoreland, St. James, St. Catherine, Clarendon, of the
That's history, and that's academic. But FIFA doesn't care about whether um, FIFA doesn't tell you that Jamaica has never won it and whatever. FIFA does its thing, and you build it based on how
so
whatever goes.
so I'm just wondering if you don't think like, okay, is there any disadvantage to like the schools out in Eastern, the Titchfield? Why those schools? Because I remember the Titchfield people always complaining to me. They call on the program and they say, why do we always have to come to Jarrett Park or to this place to play? And we end up in some, there is a sense like the schools out in Eastern Jamaica, because they are like so far,
I,
get some
I am Dacosta Cup chairman, and I can tell you it has not been like that in recent years. We might have had 1 or 2 glitches in relation to that, but one of the things that we seek to do, and the other thing you have to understand with a fixture sometimes, is that if you don't have a fixed thing at the beginning without the
Okay.
school's name in it, people can accuse you of manipulating. So what we do is that we send out the brackets from early to say who is going to play who. So
Okay.
who
Okay. Okay.
plays with a
Regardless of who
whatever that
comes.
kind of thing.
Okay.
We do that kind of thing, and in many instances, it is that happens. But people are seeing it as that. I remember when I was at Rossi's one time. Rossi's had to go to Dintil to play Dintil. I was Dacosta Cup chairman, and the spectators really gave it to me. But the fact is that it was set, and I was not going to trouble it because objectivity and fairness means that what you have set from day one, what happens is that you slot whomever is supposed to be slotted in it and you work with that. The truth is that there are times when other people have to travel to Portland. They have to travel to other areas. And there's usually no big deal in it. One of the things that we have, for example, is that because of the quality of the field, for example, the finals of the Dacosta Cup for many years has always been at Catherine Hall.
St.
That
Elizabeth
that has
School.
nothing to do with trying to make Cornwall win it or Rossi's win it. It's simply
Eh,
about the quality of the field and what you want.
yes. I see
I can
somebody
tell
who
you
said that
something.
Steps shouldn't be playing on their field in a final.
And and it depends again. If that's where the because you could consider Montego be about Cornwall, about Rossi's in terms of the support that is there, right? The fact is that what we don't have, and we just have to accept, are quality fields. And if we have quality fields, then we'll be able to address this kind of thing. You check Westmoreland, for example. Mannings has been doing well in football, right? Where's the top quality field there? With due respect to your FA president, right? Where's the
Oh,
top quality field there? The
we don't
fact
want we don't want to bring up that one
my
because
friend, Everton is my good friend. But the
yeah,
point
I
I'm
know
making, I
because the
agree,
Dacosta Cup.
it is not fair to these parishes.
Yes.
It's not an ISSA problem. It's not an ISSA problem. You understand the point I'm making? But
Yes.
we have dealt with a number of these things, and we have tried to deal with a number of these things. And
I
we
think Manix was
continue.
upset.
We hear what is happening. We
Yes.
hear about proximity and the advantage it gives schools. And I can tell you, I have always, tried to be as objective as is possible about that. My coach, for example, at William Knibb will tell you, if you check the roster, William Knibb traveled to so many places in his mind unfairly because I was very keen on ensuring that the narrative that because I am chairman, my school is going to get advantages. I wasn't into that kind of thing because you have to understand that when you are in positions like I am, you have to ensure that you work above reproach when it comes on to particular things. But we
So
deal with these
is it though a conflict of interest though that because you're William Knibb, you intentionally work at not doing anything, even though it may be right for people to believe that you're doing it in William Knibb's favor, which is to the disadvantage of your school.
sometimes it is, but the point I'm making is that it to me, and I'm talking about a principle that I work with as chairman, and I think principals have elected you for a particular reason. It's to me, if it is that a decision you're going to make or something will bring a competition into disrepute, what I do is that I have a discussion with my coach, and sometimes he's not happy with it. And I will say to him, this is how it's going to be, because what I don't want is a national discussion to say this is the thing, because it distracts from the whole thing. And sometimes the
Yeah.
boys themselves, even if they play there, they feel cheated sometimes, if they win because of how things work. But the fact is that, as I said, I think once we get to a better place where we have the fields and we're doing whatever, then I think that we should be where we are. It's one I know that has always been one that causes angst, and we just have to try to work at it as we have been working at transfer rules, for example. It won't go away, I think.
Yeah. And I do agree because the truth is Stets is one of the better fields. Some more games will probably, especially that side. So,
That's
yeah, that has to be. Dr. Wright, if the Ministry of Education and Youth place a child to school B who used to attend school A, is that student um, that if I think the person asking if that student has to sit out a year, or is he or she counted in the transfer rule?
The ministry will say if they have. So there are some students, for example, that based on intervention of the ministry, that will happen. ISSA doesn't trouble those, I think. you know. There are some students who are wards of the state who have to move with an adopted parent. Ministry does that sort of thing all the time, and
Yes.
those things where it happens, it rarely comes, but where it does come, I know we don't have an issue.
Yeah, I think R&R seemed to be an Edwin Allen person because he said there was a final that Edwin Allen and Stets played at Stets. But what Mr. Wright is saying is that that bracket that was decided where the final was going to be played was
That was
decided.
that was during COVID though. You must remember
Okay.
that was during COVID, and we were one of the things that we were obligated to do under the risk management disaster risk management act at the time was to ensure that we had the fields that were most secure and one in which we could ensure that the protocols were observed as much as is possible. And I mean, we might not like it, but States is just one of those places. States happen to have been a part of it. And look here, Edwin Allen won. I mean, this thing. I mean, I know UEFA has gone away with that thing about home and away now in terms of what some of it, but I think it's there.
Yeah.
Still. I think it's there still. But the point I'm making is that I get the point that people are making. We get it. The president gets it. All of us get it. Sometimes what people think is not always that, but you, as I said, you cannot beat perception, no matter what the reality is for some persons. We understand that, and I am not
Yeah.
fighting anyone on it. My point is that we try our best, to do the best we can to ensure that there is fairness. And where there isn't it, we welcome the comments. We just want it to be fair about them, and we have to do what we have because these are schoolboys, and we don't want them to feel uncomfortable that anything unfair is
Yeah.
taking place. Yeah.
Many persons have also suggested that maybe ISSA can extend the footballing season because it is too crammed with so many games. And I know there has been the travel has been cut down because how the zones are divided now. For example, I think back in my time, Mannings would have to travel to places like Montego Bay to play Herbert Morrison, to Hanover to play Rossies, and I think we have even played like Monroe, our Steds, and those things. Some of those things have changed now. So especially in the first rounds, the travel is not a lot because the schools are in closer geographical location, right? So I think that has helped. That's a good move. So some person are suggesting, as part of helping players to develop, can ISO extend the footballing season? What would be wrong with extending it?
It's three out of 8 months, in fact, 4. September to December, half the time for school, really. So we just have to. No, out of 10, it's about it's almost half the time, 4 months, from September to December. The fact is that there are other sports that have to be
Yeah,
played, and you don't want to cram everything into it. The other thing that you have to look at is that schools, if they are involved in many sports at the same time, what will happen is that you have uh, a kind of clogging, and schools kind of cope transportation costs with doing the football, cricket, everything together. So we try to ensure that we space them in such a way that it's at a disadvantage to the students. And I hear people of lengthening it, but we really are providing opportunities for them to participate. And I don't think we can do any better than we're doing right now.
all right, that's wonderful. So the other thing is that now, as it relates to female football, there is a female football competition. Not all the schools are involved. So persons have been saying, seeing that the female game is a little bit behind, sorry, let's use that, at the schoolgirl level, behind the boys' game. Is it possible, seeing that it is school competition, to help to grow and get support out for the female side, to play the female games as curtain raisers for the Dacosta Cup games?
Those are possibilities we can look at. I have no
Or
big
that would be clogging the system again with both
I
teams
have no big
preparing up?
issues with looking at that. I understand the point being made. and it is something because we have done that already for Dacosta Cup where we played Dacosta Cup final and Ben Francis final, on the same day, because we have been experimenting with a number of things. It's about
The
that sort.
reason why the reason why they brought that up
I
is
get that point, and we
yeah,
don't have a problem with it. We don't have a problem looking into it as an executive. I don't think the president would have
yeah,
a
because a lot of persons were saying that the growth of champs, yeah, champs evolved when there
problem.
was a merger of the girls and the boys, and that was because there was a greater support for the male side of champs than for the female side. Now that both are together, people
Right.
don't really know who the people really come out to support, if it is boys champs or girls champs. So there are a lot of persons have said that maybe this would help to drive the interest in the girls game, and particularly because now they have qualified for the World Cup twice, and there's still this um the sense that they are not appreciated. This
But, is
sense,
it, but female sports is like that right across the world. It's not a Jamaican phenomenon. And the suggestion made in terms of putting them together is something that I think, as I said, I don't think the executive would have a problem looking at, and principals have a
okay,
problem looking at. But I'm just saying, female sports across the whole world is male sports have always been more attractive. I don't know why. I mean, maybe people have answers that I don't. And it's just a phenomenon that we have to work with and see how we can get through ensuring that we get it where it ought to be. Female sports where it ought to be
yeah.
interpersonal.
I should have asked this on the William Knibb point because I think I brought it up. I've always felt like with the success of Usain Bolt and others, um, oh, someone from States is saying that maybe this can't play two competition with different sponsors at the same time in the same venue. Oh, that's interesting.
Right.
Oh, never thought about that. Really?
That's true.
Oh, you
I
can't
kind of
play two
suspect. I
competition.
kind of suspect who that's coming from, but it's true.
I have my own suspicion as well. But that's a very good point that
Yes.
we have never really thought about. Yeah, you can't play. Yeah,
Right.
that's a good point.
That's what I'm
Unless
saying. I wouldn't say this is what's going to happen. I said the executive have to look at that because the wisdom of everyone has to count in looking at something like that.
yeah. But one of the things that I'd love to see, right? Just one of the things I think there should be some consideration for the kid who enters a school from second form and goes to upper six. Maybe in his final year, he should not be counted as a transfer if he's in the same school. Because I think second form, third form, fourth form, fifth form, lower six, upper six, I think that year you should not be counted. Just because you have
No,
been in
he's
the school,
always going to be a transfer. You mean it shouldn't be in the quota?
it shouldn't be in the quota, right?
But
I
it's for
just
the
think,
school. It's for the school to decide who is the best people to use in the quota because they
no,
say
Mr. Right. I listen,
no. Hear me. I am saying, as you know, things evolve. As
yes.
things stand now, that's how it is. But
Because here's what I'm saying. The fact that that boy, that girl, has gone 4 years or 5 years participating in the school, I think there could be special exemption.
if that
And
person, if that school has 4 or 5 such persons who were snatched at second form to compete for them, if
no,
if
you give one
they don't
exemption.
if they don't face consequences up to sixth form, it will never end.
No, man, I
Because
am
people
saying
are
no,
willing
no,
to
no,
keep people and
no, no,
get them out. What I
no,
have
man.
said already is that where there is a case
Yeah,
we investigate and find that it's a genuine case of parents moving or legitimate reasons, other than persons just being moved to play sports. I don't think we have any issues in
no. What I'm saying, is that this is a kid who comes in. He's counted as a transfer student in second form, rightly so.
right.
Part of the quota, part of the quota in third form, part of the quota in fourth form. I'm fine with that. Part of the quota in fifth form. He graduates, right? And he's going to sixth form. He's part of the quota in lower six. I'm saying that in that sixth year, in the same school, the school should be given an exemption. But it has to be for kids who have been in the school for 5 years. they get an exemption. So they are not. You have one exemption per year.
Well,
One exemption.
I'm
Because
hearing you on it.
I,
Hopefully one day Issa will listen to you.
I think I think it is because you know what is funny. I know someone who is from states that it happened to, and someone from Mannings, and I just felt like
It has bitten you personally. I understand.
yeah, I felt
I'm
like they
giving you
should not
trouble.
have been. I felt like they should not have been counted
Yes,
because
yes.
they were at the school, and though they came in for sporting reason from second form, you're under 15, they didn't miss a year, but they did the due course, I think, in the school, and there should be a special exemption. Like each school gets one exemption for this purpose per year, but it only for those who have been in the school for 5 years, and they must be in. It can be so difficult that it only the genuine cases that it comes through. But that's just a sad. Maybe because it's bothering me, and I know a player right now that he said he saw the thumbnail and he said, "Please, Mannings man, talk to Mr. Wright, because." So I said that I'd bring it up, but. Mister, on a different level, because I spoke to Darlan Clark, and he told me about Marvin Anderson, the Usain Bolt, and I know persons have said that Usain Bolt, I mean, he does give back to the school, right? Though that is not, there's not a lot of publicity,
Marvin gives a
and
lot.
Marvin does that as well,
Many of
and
the
others.
class give a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that Garnet, Denton, and those guys that do a lot. They had a mentorship program as well, and they keep events down there. So that's good, and credit to you and your staff. But I've always wondered, in such a prime position, and I know that you have not been at William Knibb long enough, why isn't the infrastructure?
Mhm.
Why a track is not there? I just think about
What
if
kind of
you
track you talking? You're talking like one of those synthetic tracks.
yes,
I
why
mean,
that is why
we
that
have
is
a
not at
synthetic
William.
tracks. We have about 180 high schools in Jamaica. But synthetic track at maybe about not even 5. But
No,
I understand your point. You're thinking that Usain Bolt's success is something that should have brought that
the
there.
government,
Right.
the William Knibb should have written a proposal to the government
Mhm.
long time ago and say, listen, Usain Bolt is from this school. And Mr. Bolt signs off on it and say, listen, you need to put something here and put his.
We're thinking about some things that maybe even will go beyond that. Maybe one
Do
of
you
these
know that there's
things can be
no such facility in Trelawney?
huh?
The parish, do you realize that the, there's no such facility in Trelawney? I
No.
think the closest is Catherine Hall.
Mannings man, one of the things, is that yesterday they say where there's no vision, the people perish. Where there's no
Yeah.
vision, sports perishes. And as I say to you, what we really have is our governments that have ridden on the coattails of the successes that they have hardly contributed to. So when the Olympians coming back, there's pomp and they push all the money into the pomp and pageantry. At many events we're having, they want the front seats of things without having done the kind of work that ought to be done. The fact is that we hope that this kind of vibe and
Yeah.
this kind of energy that many of them are getting from sports and the value they see that it has in terms of bringing Jamaicans in as you would have had in champs, in terms of the streaming of football, the streaming of female football, the streaming of cricket. Right now you have had, I mean, I saw somebody say you can't even get live cricket nowadays in Jamaica, but you get it from schoolboy football recently. The fact is
Yeah.
that because of the kind of, thinking that is going into things, from executive members at ISSA and principals, you're getting that kind of thing. What I hope is that that will be seen by the powers that be, private sector, government, and then there'll be some investment to continue to assist that kind of effort to help us to get where
Yeah, I'm telling you. And I mean, even if they said, listen, we can't do it at William Knibb, but we will do it up by the Trelawney Multipurpose Stadium. I think that's what it is called.
right.
Then I'm fine. But
Remember Catherine Hall, which is the premier Western Jamaica sports
well, you want to
complex,
tell me what I
really,
saw happen?
really is suffering now.
Yes, because they had car racing.
So you imagine you're making a proposal like that at your premier sporting venue is
No,
a
but
state.
here's why I think with unlike Catherine Hall, I don't think they have to a Usain Bolt, a Marvin Anderson, and a Michael Green. There is a legacy. There is a legacy.
I look here. I totally agree with that, you know.
Yeah,
And look here. Maybe the top town for cruise business now is Falmouth.
it's Falmouth.
And if you're looking at that kind of thing to make it an attraction, I've been there as a principal and I have seen the number of people come visit just because Paul came there.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
are things that I know that we need to do as a school that we're looking at doing as a
And I
school.
know you, like I said, I know you just got there, so it will take some
Right,
time.
you know.
But like I think even where the school is located, it's just like so easy to access. And I've always said that. I mean, you don't have to pay to watch anything at William Knibb. You just drive up on the top of the road and watch it, which really needs to change, right?
Right.
Because you need to be getting it.
It's a headache for us, trust me.
So that need I don't know what you're going to do, but that needs to also change. And I think like it is something maybe you can start it and then somebody else will finish it. But I think the
We'll see
time
how that works, trust me.
yes, I think the time is now because I've seen where the seats from the Trelawney multi-purpose stadium were taken out and brought to Catherine Hall
Mhm.
because the ones here were broken. So,
Okay.
so if they're really scrapping it, maybe they can just you know, but something needs to be done, and I really think like William Knibb is in a prime location, and you have the right person.
I
I
hope
don't
they're
know.
hearing you, and I hope I can employ you to be a part of the advocacy for us.
Definitely. I really believe that.
Yeah.
Listen, there are some places that people love to go to.
Yes.
Trelawney and Saint Anne.
Yes.
And I've always said this: if Saint Anne had a proper track and field stadium with a football field, it would do well. Same thing with Trelawney.
How wonderful it would be to have every parish having a multi-purpose stadium, eh?
Well,
Just wonderful.
I,
But
I know that every parish can't, but here's what I don't think that is going to happen in St. Anne. But Trelawney, with the Usain Bolt, I can just imagine going there and there's a big Usain Bolt stadium over that track.
well, we'll see.
This is the world fastest man. And I don't know who the member of parliament, I don't know if it's Dalrymp, I don't know who the member of parliament is down there. But whoever they are, this needs to happen. This needs to happen. And it needs to happen quick. We cannot have this kind of success and completely ignore it like nothing happened.
We
I
hope.
mean, everything for Usain Bolt, everything for Usain Bolt is in Kingston.
Yes.
It's all posted in Kingston. It don't make any sense. Veronica Campbell is from Trelawney.
As I said, one of the things we have to do is that there is the thinking and there's the work and your sentiments. I think many people agree with. So it's just something that we'll work on.
Yeah. All right. And so, I mean, Issa, I see a caller calling in.
Yes.
Let me see if I can. But I mean, I always comment, Issa, you, Mr. Wellington, and the staff. Listen, not every time, boy. Mannings. I feel like when I had my Mannings incident last year, I think at Landale, I was not happy. But then it was, I heard that the field was cut at the game. I heard, they said. Mr. Tomlinson said, "You cannot believe it," and they said that. But the field. They have done some work on the field, but
Yeah.
I'm glad that there was restitution. But I must say that one of the sporting bodies that have done well, and they are criticism. I've always learned that if you don't want to be criticized, say nothing, be nothing, do nothing, and you won't be criticized. And the sporting body that must be commended for the work that they have done. And this is not just the recent cricket competition that just finished. From the what they call the one in Kingston with Woolmer's very good game. Same thing with I think you had a new finalist, Mayday, it was versus St. Elizabeth Technical.
Right.
I didn't even know that Mayday had a cricket team, so you can see that. I saw McGrath at Champs, Lacovia doing well. So I love to see that the talent, like I said, the emerging of several schools in the Dacosta Cup. Taki coming through from their zone. You want to see those things. York Castle doing well. It is showing that the powerhouses, the teams that normally dominate, it is being spread far and wide. Except that I don't like the fact that, like, certain schools will end up going so far in the Dacosta Cup, and a team that get kicked out at the Dacosta Cup end up winning a trophy. So I think like schools like Mannings must say, listen, let's not even go for the Dacosta Cup. Let's lose out and go for the Ben Francis. That's a part I don't like. You understand me? The schools
Yeah,
that
but,
end
but
up playing for
I must say something to that though. In all fairness, the truth is that everybody has a chance to go for the Dacosta Cup. It is when you don't, and everybody knows what the rules are at the beginning. But everybody has a chance to go for the Dacosta Cup. And one of the things that we had to discuss and work through. And I can tell you many schools are happy with it. I understand how people can
Yeah,
still
they're going to be happy, but I am not happy.
no man,
I
I'm fine, but I'm just explaining something to you. Not for you to be happy, but for you to be clear.
Yeah.
That one of the things that has come out of that is that we have been able now to spread the trophies, which is an important thing in getting the interest of spectators and the interest of schools in the competition, not feeling that it's just some people. So when you have a Charlie Mont, right? I think Charlie Mont.
Yeah, Charlie Mount won the Ben Francis Cup.
Right. When
Yeah.
you have
Edwin
um
Allen won it as well.
BB Cook.
And
When you
Edwin
have
Allen won
Edwin
it.
Allen, right,
Yeah.
and you have Glenn Muir who has done all of those things work well for these schools to build psyche to let them become powerhouses. Edwin Allen, for example, was a school that people were watching in the Dacosta Cup because of what had happened the previous year. BB Cook has developed that because of what had happened the previous year, right? Charlie Mont has become one of those schools that people derby match is between them and whatever. This is the kind of thing you want. This is what sports development is about. So I know how people think, but I can tell you that there is foresight in how we look at what we're looking at. And in the initial stage, it might not look the way it looks because there are many people who are stuck on tradition.
I
But
feel bad though, because I'm thinking like, so if Mannings goes to the Dacosta Cup final and loses, right? But Edwin Allen wins the Ben Francis because Mannings never get a chance to play. They end up getting a trophy that maybe if the teams in the Dacosta Cup played for, they would have won.
Well, look at the way Ben Francis used to work. There are times when the team that wins Dacosta Cup or the team that wins Ben Francis maybe doesn't even go to Dacosta Cup final.
But they both have a really well. That can happen, but they had a shot. What I'm saying is that they had a shot.
But every single team had a shot at everything.
At the Ben Francis, no, every team don't have a shot at the Ben
Every
Francis.
single team has a shot at Ben Francis. Just
No,
that's some move on to Dacosta Cup.
no, you don't have a chance because to play the Ben Francis, you have to not go to a certain level in the Dacosta Cup,
Right.
which is what I have a problem with. In other words, the more successful I am, is the less trophies I have of winning. Chance I have of winning trophies.
So let me ask you a question.
So people are beginning.
You
People
have a
right now.
problem in UEFA. You have a problem what happens in UEFA Cup.
Yeah.
That somebody might win UEFA Cup and Real Madrid and Manchester.
No. What happens in the UEFA Cup is, watch this. What happens in the UEFA Cup is different.
Because
The
of
teams that lose out in the Champions League,
Right.
they come down. Right? What
the
happens?
teams that lose out in the Dacosta Cup come down, if you want to say down.
No, so here's what I believe. The Dacosta Cup semi-finalists should also be able to play for the Ben Francis Cup.
I didn't hear that.
There's 4 semi-finalists in the Dacosta Cup. Because the Dacosta Cup normally comes down to 4 semi-finalists. They should also play against the 4 Ben Francis Cup semi-finalists.
Well, we don't have that arrangement now. I hear you. We don't have an arrangement now.
I know Mr. Wellington not going to agree with it still, but but someone has just suggested that if there's nothing in the pipeline for short term, find a variety of fast growing trees and plant by the roadside where the water settle to block out the persons who park by the roadside.
There has been thoughts of that. In fact, I have approached forestry about that.
Okay. Okay, all right. Let me see if I can get this caller because they were calling. And then I'll release you because I know you have school tomorrow. But there's a lot of I don't want to start the other lengthy discussion because I know you have school tomorrow. And
They'll come at another time. That's no problems.
yes,
Closer down to the season, I can promise you that I can.
wonderful.
Yes.
Good evening. Welcome to I Am Sure Sports.
Greetings to all great people of our sacred planet.
Oh, this sound like Mr. Babatunde.
And same one, sir.
All right, you're live on air. I have here with me Mr. Linvern Wright. He is the Dacosta Cup chairman and also principal at William Knibb. Mr. Babatunde, I believe, is connected to a movement.
Yes, he is.
What is the name of the movement again, Mr. Babatunde?
Phoenix All-Stars Football
Oh,
Academy.
I wasn't talking about that movement, I was talking about a next movement. But go ahead. What's it?
United Independence Congress.
United Independence Family Congress. Okay.
UIC in short. And by extension, I am the councillor candidate for the Capital area of St. Andrews.
Councillor candidate. Oh, that sounds like a political party now. But
Yes,
I know you didn't call to talk about that. You have a question for Mr. Wright. Especially because you're in an academy and we have seen many academy players now flooding our Dacosta Cup.
So I know since you brought up that issue, just let me just clarify. So what that means basically, I could not stand aside and just look anymore and talk. I have to actively get involved so I can be a part of a positive change.
Yes, sir.
No, what that simply means is any election that is called going forward, you no longer only have 2 forces, but you have a third movement.
Okay.
And that's the one that I am involved in. As it pertains to the football now, I have just a few, or maybe just 2, let's keep it at 2 questions. So right. First one, how long you been at this institution now, Mr. Wright? First of all, greetings and good evening.
3 years.
3 years, okay.
Yeah, but he did remind us that part of that was during the pandemic, right, Mr. Wright?
Yes.
So you'd probably I would say a year and a half. Like
Well,
in person.
technically speaking, it's 3, so we're good. I mean, like, in reality, it's 3. Yeah. Yes, sir.
In short, do you have a sports coordinator, Mr. Wright? Have you ever, and if not, let me allow you to answer the question on that. Do you have a sports coordinator?
Well, we have a coordinated approach to sports. I don't have a sports coordinator.
That's like semantics to me. What I don't know.
Well, there's a team of us who meet and
Yeah. So what I'm suggesting is that you look in this direction. There's a lot of changes that come in football for Jamaica in a positive sense. And these changes will begin to unfold before 2020.
Okay.
What I would suggest to any principal listening and who will eventually hear this podcast, start looking at creative and different ways of doing it. So one thing I would do, I would get a male and female sports coordinator, and they'll be tasked to develop sports. Sports must no longer be looked down on like my parents did and my guardians. Academics and sports must work hand in hand. And if you do it the right way, you can earn a lot of money from it. So that is what I'd suggest with that. And like Mannings had said earlier on, your legacy is uncomparable to most other schools. And like you quietly reiterated in your response, where there's no vision, people perish. So that is for that right there. But I am really joyful to see where our football is moving outside of the premise of so-called administration.
Yeah.
And I gather one of the forces that's driving that is people like Omar Management, Ryan LFC, MG Sports, um, and quite a number of other social platforms. So you have people, you have a sports sector, you have other YouTubers dealing with the administration of the country. And those things are driving a positive change. Some may not see it, and when some see it, it's too late. But our football will not always be the way it has. Years ago, I raised the issue to a number of the presidents from ISSA. Why is it that when I show up with my team to play a Manning Cup or a Dacosta Cup match, why is it that we can't have an under 14 or an under 16 or a female team as a curtain raiser? Once the current administration of schoolboy sports.
Would you hold on, caller, because what I don't want to happen is that you say several things with questions in them, but we lose track of the things that you're asking. So you have 3 questions so far. Do you remember all 3?
Yeah, man, I don't know the question. I'm making a.
All right, so you want to at least give Mr. Wright the opportunity to respond. Maybe his memory is not as sharp as yours, because since you have the questions, you want to give him the opportunity to at least respond to the question, and then you can have your closing say.
I yield.
So there was a question I think you asked, and I think that was kind of partially answered. You know, if it is that the sponsorships are
right
at cross purposes or working against each other, we have to be careful about that. But where it is possible, I don't think ISSA has any issues with it. What was the other question?
So that is the question concerning why you can't have the curtain raisers, which someone did respond to that. The other question that you asked, and I think I'm not sure if the use of word was right. You said that we need to stop looking down at football. I don't think in the discourse today or so far there was a looking down at football. It is re-emphasizing one of the core functions of school and one of the education system in Jamaica. Mr. Wright, you can pick up on this. One of the core functions is simply to ensure that our kids have the best environment and the opportunity to actualize themselves educationally. That is one of the core functions of school.
And sports is a part of education, you know. Don't get us wrong.
Right.
So it's not that we're not looking at education. So sports is a part of it, vocational subjects is a part of it, their values are a part of the whole thing. So it's a holistic education. As a Christian yourself, you would appreciate that kind of approach to the whole thing. So I mean, for us, it's just that we know sports has that level of importance to it and that value to people's well-being. And I think ISSA is doing its best to ensure that it plays its part in advancing the welfare of Jamaicans.
Yeah. So the comments or the statement made was not geared to a discourse that you're now having, but from a wider perspective, where I, as a coach, have to be persistently speaking to parents that the sport called football is not a negative thing towards their and there's still a constant battle that parents are trying to remove football from them because they do not see it as a viable alternative.
Is it let me ask you the question.
Yes,
In the present economic structure of Jamaica, is football viable?
more than viable.
In Jamaica,
More than viable.
I,
Listen, let me just clarify now.
let me just ask you one further question and I'll listen. I would love for you to present me with information that supports this notion. Go ahead. And then,
All right. When I'm
because we need to release Mr. Wright. You see him lean back in the rocking chair now. I don't want him to fall asleep because he had a long day and he was out on the farm. So go ahead quickly, Babatunde, and then I
Yeah,
will
man.
release Mr. Wright. Go ahead.
Yeah. So and as host, you feel free to pause when if needs be. So, well, from a clarification premise, when I say to my people and to you here and those listening that football in Jamaica is viable, I'm looking at it from a different premise. I'm looking at it from the premise that you develop the talent in the very way it is supposed to be developed. That means there's no aspect of player development that is shortchanged or left out. On completion of that talent development, you now look to export that to the market outside of Jamaica.
No, and I agree with that. But that is separate and apart from schooling and education. While I agree with you that that will happen, the
Yeah,
level of
so
success, the
let
level
me
of
move
go ahead.
let me move to the school premise now. If we have been given something by our ancestors, this sport was created many years ago. We now come and see that if you have a proper organized and a proper structure, proper run training development, football keeps boys from being feeders to gangs and criminality and self-destruction and all of the fields you can think of. There is no way on planet Earth that someone would get I to accept the premise that football is not viable. No, they are not. I mean, I am just one coach, but my premise to coaching, football and academics work together. I have to develop a boy the way how I know he must be developed. But he is not only going to come and play football, but he must be a positive contributor to society. He must be able to function in a positive way in the society. So when I approach coaching, it's a holistic development. I'm talking about the attributes on the field, the attributes in the classroom, the attributes at home.
Yeah, but
If
a
I
lot
get a,
of that though, I mean, I have to nip it here and then because I want to release Mr. Right. But I agree with you, and I think we are agreeing that is the holistic approach. But I still want to go back to this. In terms of economically viable, it is
yeah,
what can a person really earn from football in Jamaica? Number one. Two, and what is the school's role in that? Is it the school or is it the other infrastructure that we spoke about that is supposed to do that? The school does the identification by providing the extracurricular activity. And like Mr. Wellington always says, this is recreational in the school. And out of that, talent is identified, and our government and our leaders and our sporting administrators then begin to create the kind of spaces and environment and resources to ensure that that talent is developed to be exported, like you have suggested. But that is my suggestion. But we're going to have to pick up this because I really want to ensure that I release Mr. Wright. And I want to,
right.
yeah, I
So
want to,
in closing,
yes.
I just say to our audience, check what it costs our nation to be building or proposing that they want to build a prison. The next thing you're going to do is check what it costs our nation, our taxpayers, to keep a governor general in office. Let it right
Yeah.
that's up and out, Babatunde and the nation. All right?
All right. All
Keeping
right.
right and get better.
All right,
And of
blessings,
course,
man, blessings. But listen, we need to have a separate discussion on that about building the prison and the commandant general. But bless up yourself. Always appreciate you calling in. All right.
keep doing it, sir. Big up.
Yeah, man,
Respect.
bless up. All right. We will not touch that one. That's already excited. But Mr. Wright, I did say as I released you yesterday, I was speaking about I interviewed a player who plays in and some of the things that he's saying, Babatunde, I agree with, because one of the things that I had to come out of football is that this thing that people think you're dunce, they start treat you a particular way in Jamaica because you play football. And, they just think that you can't read and write. And you're there in university, but because you walk with your boots in your hand and you have your shorts down coming from training, walking home in your sandals. People say, yo, they look at idiot, dunce, boy, they can't read, Them football, you're dunce, And I mean, you just, oh my God.
I think this is following in a more positive light now, though, to be honest.
Well, you know what? Yeah, it is getting better.
Right.
And so I interviewed this player who plays in our Premier League here locally that went to Howard, right? And and many of them I've interviewed who have their university degrees, and he has his masters in accounting from Howard at 26. All right, graduating with honors and all of that. And I said to him, listen, one of the things that needs to happen is that, though it is changing, a lot of persons use school for football.
Right.
So now that you have made it in football, use football for school.
Right.
Because very few footballers from Jamaica make it big time. And what are you going to do if it fails? And I love what William Knibb does, and I want to end with that, with their mentorship program where they have past students, especially with their footballers. I don't know if they do it with the other sporting disciplines, talking to the players and providing mentorship where it is down this pathway. And I'll give you the last word, and then hopefully we can arrange to do this, like I said, as it gets closer to competition a second time. So go ahead. How is William Knibb managing that?
You mean
The mentorship providing a pathway to
well,
kind
it's
of
the students who are a part of it, and the students are doing their thing. It's a responsibility of student, a set of past students who are doing this. Occasionally, I have conversations with them, but it seems that things are going fine in that regard.
Yeah. All right. Finally, as you go, Mr. Wright, again, thank you so much. Listen, this is such a good conversation. There's so much to if you can if we can have a conversation that the great one from St. Elizabeth comes out of bed to respond, you know it is going good. But yeah, what I mean, tell us what are the plans? What ISSA have on the calendar coming up? What can we anticipate? What is next on ISSA's calendar?
Well. It's. I mean, we had one meeting of a group of us dealing with football. We have a few things to sort through, and we are doing some work. As I said, closer to the time, I have no problems talking to you because I think if you have a good base, which it seems you have, a lot of the information will come out with them. So we will give them significant notice, and I promise you that sometime in the summer, before the competition kicks off, I'll
Awesome.
be here once you invite me.
Yeah. Awesome. And people, we are going to have a conversation on the yam business. Because I need to one of these days. Maybe some of you need to get into farming. Some of you guys with
no problems with that.
Yes.
All right.
So I hope the kids at William Knibb are being encouraged to take it on.
Boy, it's a tough one, but I try to lead by example and not say anything but with my actions.
I see somebody says, Mr. Wright, the right one.
Yeah,
there you go.
No problem.
Yeah, man. But thank you so much. It was such an honor speaking with you. Really enjoyed the conversation, and I learned so much, and just understanding, just the whole mindset behind just what ISSA does. And I always tell people the why is important. It's not what you do, but why. And when you can understand the principle that guides the action, then you show greater appreciation of those who sets the rule. and why they have to do it. And the more people understand the why the 45 is there, why the transfer is there, then I think there's a greater appreciation for the tremendous work that ISSA continues to do to bring through so many talent in all different sporting disciplines. And thank you so much after a long day for coming on and being with us.
Bless you, sir, and thank you so much. Thank you, listeners, too. And all the best with the program, sir. I love it.
Yes, yeah, man, and we'll be in touch. Thank you so much,
Bless
Mr.
you.
Wright. The Trelawney people were here, but they weren't saying anything. They don't like to talk. All right, bless
All
you,
right.
sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so there you go, people. That is Mr. Linvern Wright. I mean, what a wonderful discussion. I encourage you to go back listen. For those of you who are in sports, understanding how the transfer work, why it is done the way it is done. Also when it comes on to the 45% mark, how it is imposed relative to context, then you'll better understand it. Thanks to every single one of you. Listen, all the respectful persons in the comment section. I really appreciate you because you're part of why the discussions go so well. It's a Sunday. Get some rest. We'll be up again tomorrow. Lots of EPL, JPL, Tier 2. So many things we're going to be discussing. All right. On tomorrow's show at 11. So I am Management. This has been I Am Sure Sports. You know, when it gets to this point of the show, we say we are over and we are OUT out of here.
Watch out, people. Watch out. Me get my jersey already. So you know, it's like Ali Cup up. Ali Cup is not a Folly Cup. August 12 and 13, 137 Mountain View Avenue. You know, it's an XL headquarters that. That one you go loud, it's a pro. So come bust the crowd and the cloud. Because we got to have fun. Yo, hear me now. If you now do the right thing, you will do the wrong thing. From you will do the wrong thing, you will go get a spanking. Camp out with football, sambo, now daily ranking. Chris, if you push the boy them off of the gully banking, rise up in the morning, Father God, me have to thank him. Praise the Most High before me get me there cranking. It's all about Ali Cup, August 12 and 13, Deliverance Full Darcy to the fullest. So be there. Remember, Aggie Animal, striving for excellence. Mad.